Hello again, viewers, and greetings, fellow space travelers. This is Thorn of Night, and welcome to episode 9 of my tree breeding guide, my new tree breeding guide from Minecraft for Forestry and Extra Trees. In this episode, we're going to be covering some of the trees in the line, starting with the hill cherry. But before I go on to that, I would like to say that I am making this map available for download so you can do some looking around yourself inside the map, see what I've done here, as well as to give you the ability to go through what I have called the Tree of Trees, which is way down over that way, to examine the steps that you're going to need to take to get the different trees bred. It's a sort of tree diagram made of trees. It's kind of interesting to look at, too, if I don't mind tooting my own horn. But anyway, let's move on with what we've got for this episode, starting with the hill cherry. And this tree can be bred a couple of ways. It does require silver lime, but you will need either apple oak or silver birch to get this thing to pop out. But once you do, you will get these neat looking trees over here. Hello, cow. These trees are the beginning of a whole bunch that actually start producing fruit. And they grow to a height of 6 meters or 6 blocks tall. As you can see there and there. And that's what the saplings look like, that orange color there. In order to get the maximum size, you are going to need a gap of 3 between the trunk and any surface. But as far as growth is concerned, they don't really care about that one little sticking out leaf block there. But for the full size, you are going to need a total width of 7 to get it to grow to the whole shebang there. But in order to get the output from this, which is cherry, you can see that there are these little nodules on the leaf blocks, and I'm going to bone meal one of these, and you can see it change color, and that signifies that the leaf block is ripe and will very likely produce some cherries when it is broken or when it dissolves. So that's the difference between the fully mature and the less maturity. There are different steps. Even those two are different colors there. But this will produce cherry as well as, on average, about 4 logs, or exactly 4 logs, and about 5 saplings per tree. It's a pretty high yield of saplings. The arrangement of the leaves, I think, are pretty much identical all the way across the board. I don't remember ever seeing one that looks different than this. But as you can see, you'll get this cherry wood here, and that's what the bark looks like. But cross-section shows you that it's a little bit more yellow on the interior here. But that is the cherry, or the hill cherry tree. There are a few different cherry trees. To have a grove of them, you can see that there is a little space between them for walking, and that's because it does at least need 2, but definitely for the max size 3. But that's what a grove of them looks like. It is a tier 3 tree, which means that it requires a tier 2 tree in order to grow, and that would be the silver lime there. The other 2 are just tier 1 core trees. But that is the hill cherries. Let's move on to the next one here. We've got the olive tree. This guy requires the hill cherry and a common alder, which I cover in a separate episode. So go watch that one if you need to know what the alder tree is all about. I believe that's the beach episode, if I'm not mistaken. But it is an end of the line tree. That's what this red stripe here signifies. And what that means is the tree itself, or the species itself, does not get used in the creation of any new species. You can make hybrids out of it, but it is the end of its little sub-branch here. And this red wool that's behind the chest here signifies something else. It has to do with the saplings. On average, out of 20 trees, you can expect to get 0.6 saplings per tree. That's fewer than 1. That's a negative return. That's why that's red. But otherwise, they are pretty much, if not exactly identical, then almost identical for all the actual trees themselves. There are just not all that many leaf blocks. Let's see here. There's 8, 10, 13 leaves per tree. Not much. Not enough to get saplings. So you're going to need to use a grafter if you want to guarantee getting saplings out of them. The maximum height they grow is 4 meters, and that's just because of this one little top guy there. They can grow pretty close to each other, though. And once again, they have nodules on them, which show you that there are fruit to be had. And it will give you these olives. And it will also give you the olive wood, which you can see here. That's the cross section of the logs, and those are the planks. And it is a tier 4 tree. And hello, cows. Moving on to the next one, we have got, excuse me, we have got a Rumpf, a sour cherry, which requires hill cherry and white willow, which I cover in my silver lime episode of this tutorial slash guide. And once again, it is a fruit-bearing tree, as you can see there. You can ripen those guys with bone meal. On average, you can expect to get about 3.2 saplings per tree, more leaves, more saplings, as well as 3 logs per tree. I think the template for this species is identical all the way across the board, no variances. But they will give you these sour cherries, which the cherries can be eaten for food or can be put in a squeezer for making fruit juice. But they will give you these cherry wood planks. And this is an end of the line tree. Go away, cow. An end of the line tree, no new species after it. But they do grow to that height of 5 there. And they require a gap of 2 in order to comfortably grow. The extreme edge ones can overlap. As you can see here, it is 3 across. So these leaves, the outside leaves, don't really matter. But if you want the maximum size for that shape to maximize your sapling output, leave yourself a gap of 2. And this is a tier 4 tree. Moving on to the next one, we have got the wild cherry this time. It takes the hill cherry and this time silver lime. Another end of the line tree. And it will give you these wild cherries, but once again, the cherry wood, same as before over there. On average, you're going to expect about 4.5 logs per. There is some variation, as you can see. That one's shorter than that one. So they can grow to a height of 7. And they will produce about 2.5, maybe 3 saplings per tree on average, between 2 and 3 saplings. And once again, they do like a gap of 2 in order to grow. And they can be manually matured, or they will just grow on their own. That one was already mature, as I recall. And like I said, you'll get the wild cherries there. And that is, once again, a tier 4 tree. You can see how they look in there. And that's, I think that's the same log type as the other cherry trees. Moving on to the next species, we have the coffee species. It is a hill cherry and a jungle bred together to get you these things, which are not really all that impressive. You've got, let's see here, 29 leaf blocks, if my math is right, and they grow to a height of 4. It's uniform as far as I can tell for all the different there are no variations, as my experience shows for this. Not only these 20 trees, but the other trees I use for doing the averages. So you're going to expect to get 3 logs per tree, and a little more than 1 sapling per tree. It's almost guaranteed to give you 1 sapling, and they do also bear fruit. You can get the coffee from it. It's just called coffee. But the wood is just the standard jungle wood and the jungle planks that you can see here. And it is also a tier 4 tree. Moving on to the next species, we've got the clove tree, which comes from the coffee being bred with the teak. And I have that in the teak and kapok episode, so go ahead and watch that if you need to know where those come from. But it is the end of its little sub-branch. As far as I can tell, these are also identical in all respects to each other, with a dangerously low but not necessarily negative return sapling yield. That's what the orange signifies. It's a warning. Um, I think I may have made a mistake in accidentally pitching one of them, but just to be on the safe side, I made that orange. It might be red. You might need to use a grafter to guarantee getting saplings out of it, enough to have a grove growing. But it also does produce fruit, as you can see there, and it will give you these cloves, as well as the Sigium wood, or Syzygium, or I have no idea how that's pronounced. I'm going to call it Sigium. But it will give you 3 logs and about 1 sapling per tree. And that's what the wood looks like when turned into planks there. And this is a tier 5 tree this time because it requires a tier 4 to make it. But in order to, I almost forgot, it will grow to 4 tall. And in order to get the maximum size, you're going to need a gap of 2, but it's not really necessary. You can ignore the extreme leaf block and just have 1 gap if you want. But let's go ahead and move on. Finish this up. Got a couple to go. We've got the papaya next, and it requires jungle and hill cherry. And as you can see, they sort of look like jungle trees, but not quite. On average, you're going to expect to get about 7.5-ish logs per, and roughly 2 saplings. And as you can see, they give you these little nodules on there, and they will give you papaya, as well as papaya wood, which you can see the output of that here. They can grow to a height of 10 meters tall, with that little top leaf block there, and they are a tier 4 tree. In order to get them to grow to their maximum leafiness, you will need a gap of 2, though. But there you go. That is the papaya. Moving on to the next tree, we have got the next and final tree, the date palm. It requires jungle and the papaya, and it is the end of its little subline here. On average, you're going to expect to get 6.5-ish logs per tree. There is some variation. And about 2.5 saplings. And you can see these red nodules here. They will give you... Hey, now, I didn't put them in there, I guess. Let's see here. Knock one off of there. It will give you a date, and it is more than 1 date per. I'll go ahead and toss this in here for if you wish to download this and take a look. But it will give you this palm wood, as you can see here. Nice sort of deep, dull orange color. It is the end of its line, though, and it can grow to a width of, or a radius of 3, for a total width of 7. And as you can see, there is some variance on the height. It can grow to 9 tall here. And those little red nodules really pop out. But that's what the logs look like on the outside, but it's got this little orange color. And I don't know what to call the hue of this green, but I kind of like it. It's neat. It just goes with that. But anyway, that's the date palm, and that is the end. Oh, almost the end. 1, 2, 3, 4, and this is a tier 5 tree. Now it's the end of this episode of the first part of the hill cherry exploration of my tree breeding guide. So thank you very much for watching. I hope this has been helpful and informative to you. However, if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, please feel free to leave them in the comment section below. Hopefully I will get your message, and if I do, I will return it and answer any questions you have as quickly and thoroughly as possible. If you like this video and you like what I'm doing here, please feel free to give a like. I do appreciate that. And if you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe so you know when my future stuff comes out. But I'm going to go ahead and cut off here, so thank you once again for watching. This is Thorn of Night, and I will talk to you later.